3Delight comes packaged with Katana, and you can install it at the same time you install Katana. If you launch Katana using the default shortcut, then 3Delight will be configured for you. But since you are most likely going to modify your launch script to include other resources, let's look at how to add it manually. To make sure it's enabled, let's add the 3Delight specific environment variables to our launcher script. The delight variable needs to point to 3Delight's root install directory. We then need to append the path to the bin directory inside it to the system path variable. And finally, to make sure all the 3Delight plugins and nodes are available inside Katana, let's append the 3Delight for Katana path to the Katana resources variable. We are now ready to save this as a bat file and launch Katana with 3Delight. You can verify that 3Delight is loaded in the console window. You should also now be able to see the 3Delight nodes in the tab menu. Let's now look at an example 3Delight scene setup. When we dive in a network material create node, we can see the 3Delight materials. If you worked with 3Delight before, you'll see all the familiar material properties. You can create a DL shading node and turn it into any of the available nodes based on what you need. Or you can also filter to find specific nodes. If you launch Katana with multiple renderers loaded, you can switch to the renderer specific nodes by pressing Shift with Tab and selecting the renderer you want to work with. For lighting in the Gaffer 3 node, you can create the 3Delight lights as needed, and all the available parameters are listed under the Material tab. You can also choose to create the lights in the viewer using the Artist Lighting mode in Katana. The Render Settings node is where we will set up things like the render camera, the resolution, and even the render engine we will be using. The default renderer can also be set in the Katana launch script. To make adjustments to the render quality and other 3Delight specific settings, we can create a DL settings node. This is where we can adjust the render samples and anti-aliasing, amongst other things. Finally, let's look at setting up the AOVs in 3Delight. Setting up AOVs is very straightforward. Simply expand the image layers section in the DL settings node. First, we will specify the file name and the image format for all the layers. Let's launch the AOV selector by pressing the Add button and choose all the needed AOVs to be added. We don't need to notify Katana about these, as this is already taken care of by the DL settings super tool for us. Let's check the render settings node to confirm that all the passes are selected to show in the Katana monitor. We are now ready to render. To trigger a render, just right-click on the render node and select Preview Render. To view the AOVs, select the name of the layer in the Outputs drop-down at the bottom of the Monitor tab. That wraps it up, and now you can get started with Katana and 3Delight and begin to explore.